Did you ever provision IT resources or IT infrastructure? Something like servers, storage, databases, maybe even some networking? It takes an effort, right? So it's not just a flick of a switch. Well, not most of the times, right? So imagine doing that 500 more times. Imagine moving that to a different account or replicating it somewhere. Imagine making a staging environment out of production. That seems like a full-time job for somebody, right? What if I told you you can do all that and more, all from the comfort of your lovely text editor and some command line magic? Let's talk about infrastructure as code. Before I discuss infrastructure as code, let's talk about how it used to be. So back in the days, you would take a server, you would buy a physical server and move it to a data center, put it on a rack or next to a rack if you're too lazy, plug in a bunch of cables, put the CD in, and install an operating system and hope it works, right? We moved on to virtual machines afterwards. You create virtual machines, but again, you still need to have those physical servers somewhere. And out of my own example, I used to work as a thing called a server provisioning administrator. My job was basically to provision operating systems onto servers. So somebody comes to me and says, hey Darko, install 500 of these Windows 2003 servers, physical boxes, in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I'm sitting somewhere in Europe. So I have to call a guy, hey, can I make sure those servers are racked and stacked? Can I make sure those network cables are plugged in? And then, once all that is done, I take my favorite Java-based remote administration utility, pop in a Windows 2003 ISO, and install all of those things manually. So for 500 servers, it will take a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months. Not optimal, right? But we have the cloud now. There must be a better way we can do it from the cloud. Yes, exactly. We can do things much better in the cloud thanks to infrastructure as code. So what is infrastructure as code? Well, in a strict definition, infrastructure as code is a process of defining, provisioning, and updating your infrastructure, your IT infrastructure through, well, code, right? So in a sense, you take your favorite text editor and you describe all the things in this lovely laundry list of, hey, I want a server, I want this much storage, I want these subnets, I maybe want this IP address, or I want this database to be set. So instead of clicking a button and telling it, hey, once I click this button, it will create an instance for me or a virtual machine, I describe how I want my virtual machine to look like and let the black magic happen somewhere in the back end. So you may be asking yourself, but why? Well, let's actually take a step back. Especially this is the cloud, right? We're talking about the cloud. Everything is on a hyperscale. So let's say you need a virtual machine on AWS, and that's called an EC2 instance. So you go to the EC2 console and click a button, and then you have to create a network called a VPC. Maybe you have to create a security group. Maybe you have to create a key pair, an elastic IP address, and 20, 50 clicks later, right? You have a virtual machine. That's fine. But let's say you need another one. Do you click 50 times again? I know it's not too much to click 50 times, but let's do that 1,000 times. 1,000 times 50 clicks. That's a lot of clicks. And what makes you so sure that you will not break it? Yeah, okay, somebody will comment, Darko, hi, hey Darko, we used to script things. I did my things in batch and bash and Python. Yeah, that's fine. But still, in batch and bash and Python, you tell it, hey, run this API call to launch an instance. And if I run that script 10 times, it will launch my instance 10 times, which is not maybe something we want. I want to describe, I want to take a piece of paper, let's call it, hey, I'll take my tablet and I'll describe what do I have running on my instances. Maybe I have a container running, right? Maybe I have some servers or even a cluster of servers running on my cloud. I want to describe those things. I want to take it all and describe it. And I don't want to make a bunch of API calls. I want to describe it in a lovely essay saying, hey, this is what I want. And I'll present that to the cloud and say, do that. Let's say you want to move your production to staging, or actually you want to take your production environment and replicate it to staging or development, because you should not develop on the production, right? So how long does it take you to do that manually? Do you remember where you clicked? Is your documentation good enough for that? So instead of relying on a bunch of documentation that's probably not good, how about we describe things in code and then just let that be the documentation for us? And I don't even have to read it. I can just pass it on to my infrastructure as code framework or service and let it do its job, right? So it's a much better approach to things through infrastructure as code. And we're speaking about the cloud, right? So in the cloud, everything is an API call. Everything you do, everything you click is in essence defined through code, right? You click a button to launch an instance, it sends an API call somewhere to AWS, and that API call is basically provisioning you an instance depending on how you described it in a bunch of boxes. So on the cloud, infrastructure is code, right? Of course, these things apply also to your data centers as well. So there are some tools and utilities that you can provision your data center infrastructure to an extent, of course, through code. But most of the times when we're talking about infrastructure as code, it's on the cloud. So my goal, instead of clicking, try describing things to your cloud vendor and let it provision it for you. But actually, instead of me just talking, let me actually show some code to you in a demo or something. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, let's actually look at some code. It's enough of me talking at the screen. So what I'm going to try to do, actually show you right now, is how to do things on AWS with some infrastructure as code. But before that, let me actually switch over to the web console and show you how to do it manually. So just you see the differences. Let's say I want to create a network, a VPC on AWS. Let's do that. So I go to the services console, click on VPC, and click on your VPCs. Let's say, hey, I want a new VPC, create VPC or virtual private cloud. Click there, call it demo VPC because no better names exist, 10.0.0.0/16. I'm telling it which range of IPs I will give it, basically tell it to have. And the name is going to be default VPC. Well, bam, right? I've created a network. Well, actually, I've created a very bare bones network. I need a lot more things here. So I need a subnet. I need to create a subnet. I need to basically give my VPC the ability to have a subnet. Let's call it subnet 1. Yeah, that's a great example. VPC, it's going to be the demo VPC. And the availability zone, I'm going to just choose the first one. That's fine. And I'm going to define which CIDR block. It's going to be 10.0.1.0/24. Click create. That's all good. Excellent. We have a subnet. Now, looking at my subnet, so let me just select my VPC here. Actually, I need to refresh all of that. Select my demo VPC. Excellent. I have a subnet here. Now, one thing that my subnet is missing is the route to the internet. So I want to make sure that my instances, my servers that are running on this thing, have access to the internet. So if I go to here, route table, have a look at this piece of code. It just says, hey, this is only to the local part. That's okay, but I have no internet. So what I need to do is actually need to create an internet gateway. I need to basically give the ability for my instances to be contacting the internet. I'm going to call it demo gateway, like that. Click create internet gateway. Perfect. I have this gateway. I need to attach it to a VPC. I basically need to attach a gateway to a specific VPC. I'm going to choose here demo VPC. That's all fine. Click attach internet gateway. Amazing. Then I go to my my actually subnets here. Click edit. Actually, click on the route table here. I want to I want to edit my routes. Because right now we only have the destination 10.0.0.0/16. Anything inside of my subnet, inside of my network, it works. But I want to go to the internet, and the internet address is 0.0.0.0/0. And how to get to that? Well, it's going to be an internet gateway, and it's going to be this one. If I click save routes, well, bam, we're good. We have created a network right now. We can do this 1,000 more times, and I would most likely, make a mess 20% of the time. And imagine if you have multiple subnets, multiple route tables, multiple internet gateways, NAT gateways, private, public subnet. Yeah, it will take more effort. Let's actually see how can we do this in infrastructure as code. So I'm actually going to do it in CDK, or the Cloud Development Kit here. So the first thing I need to do is install the CDK. So to do that, sudo npm install -g AWS-CDK. Well, bam, it's going to ask me for a password. I already have this installed. It may just update it to the latest version, so that's good. So you need npm available. So the latest version as of this recording is 10.1.63. So let's create a directory here called demo stack, cd demo stack, and I'm going to initialize a new application. So CDK init -- language. I'm going to actually go for TypeScript. Language, yeah, and not Python. I'm going to do TypeScript because it's easier. TypeScript, well, bam. So CDK supports a multiple different languages, and I'll mention that later on in the video. So it's currently setting up my directory structure for this piece of code, for this infrastructure as code project or app or stack in this case. And it has all the files I need for me created. So if I go here and have a look, it has a bunch of things here created. It has a bin file, basically our application has a lib file. This is where we define our code, and a whole lot of different things, which we do not care about right now. So actually, let's edit our lib file called demostack.stack. So let's create that VPC here. I need to install a module. So I need to install a module that contains the VPC functionality. So doing npm install install at aws-cdk/aws-ec2. Wabam. This will install the EC2 module, and the EC2 module actually contains all the capabilities that are required for us to create a VPC. So it goes through the entire installation process. Perfect, excellent, we're good. Let's go back to our file here. Line 1, it's importing a module, the core module, but let's copy this, paste it in, and import it as EC2, right? Import star, or everything, as EC2 from a specific module. So in this case, it's going to be AWS-EC2. Excellent. Now, let's create a VPC. So what do we need to create? A VPC, subnets, internet gateways, route table changes, multiple subnets. Well, actually, VPC, so my VPC equals new ec2.vpc, this, and let's give it a name called my VPC. Wabam, wabam, we are done. We have created, well, actually, we have defined a VPC. So let's actually create it. So let's open up this and do npm run build. Because it's using TypeScript, we need to compile it to JavaScript. So it's doing all that. Hopefully this works. There we go. And then just do CDK deploy. Region, I'm going to do EU Central 1. Actually, let's see if this would work. EU Central 1, EU West 1. Would this work? Maybe. I don't know. It is. Perfect. So we are deploying this VPC right now into our EU West 1 region, or the Ireland region. So as you can see, it's creating a stack, it's creating an internet gateway, it's creating a VPC, it's creating elastic IP addresses. So it will actually create all the things we need: 4 subnets, 2 NAT gateways, 2 elastic IP, actually 1 elastic IP, no, 2 elastic IP addresses. It will create 2 public, 2 private subnets, all the route tables, everything we need to be configured. It's going to do all of that from a single line of code. Hey, and if I want to do this 100 times, so let's say let's revisit that. This is going to be very much not how you do things, but let's say I open my bin/demo stack file. So this is where I define a thing called an app. So this is how I define a stack. Hey, this will create a stack with that VPC. If I do this and paste it a bunch of different times, with me changing the demo stack into something else, right, to give different name, a number, it will create a VPC this many times, this much different stacks with this much VPCs. Take that clicking, right? So in essence, this gave us the ability within a single line with just a bunch of code. And again, I did it from lovely Vim and from my terminal. No, I didn't even touch a mouse, right? So, you know, hey, is this what you're using to deploy your infrastructure? No, I'm using a keyboard. So again, Super simple. If you want to get more details on CDK, I have a bunch of videos on my channel as well, but expect a full-on what is CDK series coming sometime soon. Let's go back to the talking face Darko, the Darko without a demo right now. So I hope you enjoyed that piece of code right there, but let's talk about why should you use infrastructure as code. Well, I did explain a bit of the benefits just before, right? Less clicking, more typing, and you, as you see, have you seen in the code shot that it actually took me much less time to provision what I needed to provision instead of just clicking a bunch of buttons. So that's one thing. But also, it gives you this ability to predict changes. So you're actually able to see how your infrastructure should look like before you make the change. Or if you want to provision completely new, you just take a look at your lovely piece of code and kind of understand what's happening there when you're launching it, right? It's also very easy, and I mentioned this before, very easy to replicate environments, right? Copying everything, or basically creating a carbon copy of your running environment from account A into account B on AWS is relatively simple. You will basically take that template, provision it somewhere else, well, bam, it works, right? On top of that, copying or basically replicating production environments into staging and development environments is that much easier, right? But seeing that this is actual code, what else can we do with code? Let's think about your application, your software, your business thing, right? What do you do with it? Well, a couple of things. Number one, you version control it. You put it in Git, you put it in a code repository, right? So in essence, gives you the ability to version control your software, which is amazing. But also, you can version control your infrastructure, which is even more amazing, because did you ever wonder who made that change to the database or to an instance or to a network, and then you're just trying to figure out in the sea of log files who did it? Well, you can see the commit history, who made the change to your lovely CloudFormation template, right? And then you know who to point a finger at, or more likely, you know how to fix the problem. What else? How can we avoid those problems, maybe? Well, the same as with any piece of code, you can test this code. So you can take your infrastructure code through a proper code testing pipeline, CI/CD pipelines. This is where you would take your piece of CloudFormation code or Terraform code through a pipeline, run things such as unit tests, integration tests, and a whole bunch of different testing utilities that can ensure that your code would run as it should. So that is very important. Now, what else? What kind of benefits can we see this? Yes, you can run this from anywhere, right? You have an old laptop that cannot handle a browser. It can handle Vim, right? So you can technically do it from anywhere. So that's kind of a niche benefit, but for me, I like that. Okay, let's talk about how to actually get started. I've been yelling at you for the last couple of minutes about all these things, but let's actually talk about how should you get started with infrastructure as code. Let's talk about a few tools. I mentioned them as I went, and you've seen one actually during the demo, but there's a few tools, especially when talking about AWS, right? So there's CloudFormation, the OG infrastructure as code tool, where you write your infrastructure as YAML or JSON files, depending on what you like. There's also Terraform. It comes from HashiCorp. Terraform uses its own domain-specific language. It kind of looks like JSON, but it's much, much better than JSON. So it uses HCL or HashiCorp language to define your infrastructure. Terraform works also in other cloud vendors and even for a lot of different things. So Terraform is quite powerful. There's also the Cloud Development Kit, or CDK and Pulumi. Both CDK and Pulumi kind of offer a similar approach where you use generic programming languages such as Python, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, C#, F#, and use those languages to actually provision infrastructure through these things. So it's not like making an API call something through Python. You're actually defining infrastructure in Python and having CDK or Cloud Development Kit do the rest for you. So what other things? I can also recommend a whole bunch of workshops regarding infrastructure as code tooling on AWS. I'm going to leave a bunch of links below in the description, and maybe something will pop up right here, and that you can kind of check out. I need to toot my own horn. I also do on this YouTube channel and my Twitch stream. Check out, I have a whole bunch of videos on a lot of different topics, from CloudFormation to CDK to Terraform. I have like a whole 4-part Terraform series where I do a bunch of things with Terraform and try to make it work, right? So if you're interested in that, again, links down below. Yeah, that would be it. I really hope you enjoy this relatively short introductory video on infrastructure as code. I hope I was able to explain to you what infrastructure as code is. Please do let me know in the comments below, or reach out to me on social media. Speaking of that, make sure to subscribe to this channel because there's going to be a lot more content of that. And follow me on the social medias because, hey, if you want like some geeky goodness and some quality tech posts, let's call them tech posts, on Twitter and LinkedIn, do follow me there as well. My name has been Darko Mesaros. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, bye-bye.